I'm going to just talk to you about challenging decisions under the CARE Act. And as we said, it is not legal advice, but what I'm going to try and give you, hopefully, is some tools that you can use to challenge any decision under the CARE Act. I'm going to refer to some bits of law, which I think actually Rosie's going to be putting up the links in the chat, and also it'll all be in our write-up. But I will be talking about the CARE Act. Mostly I'll be talking about the care and support statutory guidance, and this is what I'm going to hope to show you in a minute, just to give you an idea, because the guidance is really helpful, because it's what councils have to follow when they're making CARE Act decisions, and it's set out quite clearly. It's got a list of contents. It's not as legal as looking at the law. It's not easy read, you know, it's still a lot of text, but it's the sort of thing that you can probably find potentially what you're looking for. And I'm going to show you a bit about how to use it. And I could see some of the things in the chat, and it probably answers some of your questions of things that you want to find. And then I'm going to talk a bit about the local government and social care ombudsman. And the Ombudsman deals with complaints about councils, and this includes social care for children and adults. So in order to try and help me explain about challenging decisions, I've got a fictional character called Renee, who's made up from bits of cases and information I've been given, just to try and bring to life a bit the situation. So Renee has a learning disability in cerebral palsy, and she's been finding that the movement in her arms and legs is getting worse. So some days are okay, some days are really not good days. So she's asked for a needs assessment because she wants to have some more help. But she's really anxious because although she wants more help, she doesn't want to lose control of her life. She's also really worried about the assessment, and particularly giving what she thinks will be the right answers, so she actually gets the support she needs. So the social worker telephones her to arrange a Zoom meeting. Renee says, you know, she's worried about the assessment, she's worried about understanding the questions, she's worried about getting all her information across, and doesn't think that Zoom will help this. The social worker says it has to be Zoom because of COVID. A few weeks after the assessment, Renee receives her care and support plan. Now, it's not easy read, there's a lot of text, but from what she can work out, it seems to be saying that she doesn't need very much support. So what can she do? Well, as Rosie touched on, the care and support plan is really important. It's really important that it's produced properly and it accurately describes a person's needs and their wishes and the effects on their life and what they want, and also has a personal budget in it. Now, the law does say what a care and support plan should contain. And this is, as I've just sort of said, it should talk about your needs. It should talk about how the council will meet your needs. Now, those are the needs that it has a duty to meet, which are the outcomes that Rosie talked about. And I'll show you another link to them at the end. Your wishes, how the council is going to promote your well-being. And again, Rosie talked about well-being, and I think in the chat Magda had listed well-being for us, but don't worry, we will show you where all these things are and we will put them in our write-up. And your personal budget. So not surprisingly, Rosie doesn't have a care and support plan that is an accurate picture of her needs and wishes and her well-being, because she wasn't properly involved. So firstly, she needs to challenge how the assessment was done. Now, the first step could be a challenge letter. Now, I say it could be a challenge letter because you can go straight to the second step, which I'm going to come to, which is using the complaints process. But you might, it's more of a tactical decision at this stage. You might think that a challenge letter, which is essentially a firm, polite letter to the social worker, is going to be the quickest way of resolving the situation at this point, and you might think that actually that would be better for maintaining relations. In this situation, Renee's at an early stage dealing with adult social care, it might be the best option to try a sort of more informal challenge letter, but that would be a personal decision depending where you're at. So in a challenge letter, now these are just tips, you don't have to do it like this, but these are the things that I think you should be including. It might seem obvious, but put your name or the name of the person you're writing about, their date of birth and the name of the social worker. So that just makes sure it goes to the right person to deal with it, because you know what councils are like and things go all over the place. So it clearly identifies the person. If Renee has got someone to write the letter for her or help do it for her, they would need to include that she's consented to this, or she might sign the bottom of the letter to confirm that she knows the contents and she agrees with it. Or if you've got, or you are an attorney or a deputy for someone, you need to set out that's your authority, that you're the attorney or deputy, and that's why you're writing to the council or the social worker. It's always helpful to put in relevant dates. So in Renee's case, she could put in the date she asked for the needs assessment, the date, the telephone calls with the social worker, the date of the assessment. I mean, don't worry too much if you don't know the exact dates, it's just really a sort of timeline to give a bit of background to what's gone on. And then we come to the main bit. So this is about what the council's done wrong and the evidence about what they've done and what they should have done. So if we take Renee's case, so she was not fully involved in the assessment process. And the evidence for this is, well, she wasn't given any accessible information. There was no preparation with her. So, you know, she'd already said she was worried about it. The social worker could have done some preparation, talked to her about the sort of questions. There was nothing done to address her concerns about the assessment and whether Zoom was an appropriate way of doing it, and how it should have been done. And it's really useful here if you can then refer to the law, and this is where the care and support statutory guidance is really useful, because I'm just going to try and share my screen and just show you the section on assessments. Just to give you an idea, this is the section 6 is all about assessment. I'm not going to read it all out, but you can see the first bit, the first paragraph says that the assessment is one of the key interactions. And the next one goes on to talk about how an assessment should be done. It goes on to talk about the person being at the centre of the assessment. So my point is, you're going to be able to find one of these paragraphs, or just refer to section 6 about how the council should have done the assessment. Okay. Then the next issue for Renee is that she didn't have anyone to support her with the process. And we've touched on advocacy. And if a person is going to have substantial difficulty being involved in the assessment or care planning process, they should have a Care Act advocate. And if I quickly flick to this one, section 7 is all about advocacy. So again, you can go to section 7 and find, or just refer to section 7, but you might again be able to find the paragraph that relates to your issue. Or I saw there was chat about family being advocates, and they can be advocates, and you'll be able to find the reference in here. So the care and support statutory guidance is really useful for backing up your challenge, basically, and you could probably find at least the section, if you can't find the paragraph, that's going to help you in there. I'll come back. So then you need to put in what you want. So essentially, Renee wants a new assessment in which she's properly involved, that she can actually be meaningfully part of, and she wants a Care Act advocate to support her. So step 2, if the council, having had the challenge letter, don't offer Renee a new assessment or a Care Act advocate, and she has to continue challenging. The next step, and as I said, you could go straight to this step if you thought, actually, I've been asking them about this and this has been going on for too long, or I just need to get this resolved now. You could go straight to using the council's complaint process. So you can use the challenge letter, you can set it out in the same way. So a bit of background about who you are, if you're writing on behalf of someone else, a timeline, the issues, the evidence, the law that you can find to back that up. And then, sorry, and I should say, but in the heading, put complaint. So it's very clear that this is a complaint. And then you can end it by saying that you want your letter passed to the complaints department and you want them to acknowledge receipt with a copy of their complaints procedure and how they intend to deal with your complaint. So they should respond to you setting out how they are going to deal with the complaint and who's going to deal with it. And they might not have timings at this stage, but in theory, they should be keeping in contact with you about what they're doing about it. I know in practice that it doesn't always work like that. And you might well need to go to the third step. Now, the third step is going to the local government and social care ombudsman. I should just say there's a different ombudsman for health complaints. So the local government and social care only deals with issues with councils and social care, not with anything to do with health. The Ombudsman has a website, and we'll put the link into the website. They do have easy read material on their website, and the Ombudsman can consider needs assessment, delay, safeguarding, poor quality care, poor quality complaint handling. It's a free service. You shouldn't need a solicitor to do it. You should be able to use it because they have an online form or they have a telephone service. So if you're filling in the online form, you've already got your challenge letter, your complaint, you can use the information from that. Again, you need to have authority or consent from the person if you're not doing it for yourself. And you need to have used the council's complaint procedure before you go to the Ombudsman. Well, in general, you need to have gone through that procedure before the Ombudsman will look at your case. And importantly as well, you need to complain to the Ombudsman within 12 months of knowing about the problem. So for example, if Renee had the assessment in February 2021, she needs to have gone to the Ombudsman by February 2022. I mean, if there's circumstances where you couldn't, they might well look at it, but it's useful to bear in mind really that you need to stay within the 12 months. And the Ombudsman can recommend change. Well, what the Ombudsman will do is look at your case and decide whether they are going to, what they call, uphold your complaint. So if they agree with your complaint, say that the council has acted wrongly, they can recommend changes, they can review processes, and they can give financial compensation. It is not as much as you would get at court, but as you'll know, going to court is a costly, time-consuming process. And actually you want to get the result you want from the Ombudsman and potentially some financial compensation. The Ombudsman also, if you have a look at the website when you've got a moment, it has a database of cases and they're all set out by areas, so assessment, direct payments, whatever. And you can, I mean, there are a lot on there, but you can have a look. And sometimes you'll see there a case that's got very similar to yours, which you could use in your complaint before you get to the Ombudsman, or you can see how the Ombudsman dealt with it and what they said. And they're not too difficult to follow. I mean, they're actually meant, so we can all read them and see. If you're really interested, you can sign up to emails from the Ombudsman, but I warn you, there's quite a lot of cases on, but yeah, it's all in there. So I'm just going to go back to my screen sharing just to show you in the Care and Support Statutory Guidance, because if Renee had needed to complete, say best case scenario, she gets to the Ombudsman, the council has to do the assessment properly and provide an advocate, and she actually has a care and support plan that reflects her needs. Chances are that might all happen, but then she has to challenge what's in the care and support plan about her needs. And it's the same principles. It's using the evidence of what the council hasn't done properly, and so in Melly's case, what her actual needs are, but fitting it with the law. So I'm just going to show you, because in the care and support statutory guidance, there's quite a nice little table which shows you all the outcomes and the well-being, which Rosie talked about, because those are all things you need to look at if you're challenging the content of the care and support plan. So